Welcome, everybody, to CFL Weekly Pickup Show. We are at Grey Cup Week. I'm your co-host for the CFL Weekly Pickup Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome in my co-host, Brian Schmidt. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing great. It's Grey Cup time. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, and Robert Drummond could not be with us tonight. He just let us know that he wasn't going to be able to make it in. But we have an interesting matchup, and we'll start off with Game 1. The Ottawa Red Blacks have punched their ticket to the 106th Grey Cup with a dominant performance against the Hamilton Tiger Cats in the Eastern Final on Sunday afternoon, led by quarterback Trevor Harris, who had an amazing game, broke a CFL record for the most touchdown passes in a playoff game with 6. The Red Blacks ended up beating the Hamilton Tiger Cats 46-27, and will make the trip to Edmonton this weekend for the Grey Cup. Brian, if Trevor Harris were to play like this again, they'll win a Grey Cup.
Absolutely, they will. How about Ottawa? All year long, and we, really the year they won the Grey Cup, kind of the same thing. Up and down. On paper, they should be a lot more dominant than they are, but they're up and down. But as soon as it comes to playoff time, all of a sudden they find that stride, and we're seeing it again. I mean, this is a team that looks really, really good, and I think, at least for me, I think that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to favor them in this Grey Cup.
Yeah, when you look at him, it wasn't just Trevor Harris this last week. You also had William Powell, 21 carries for 86 yards. Defensively, they intercepted Jeremiah Masoli 3 times. So you look at this is a complete team. There's a lot of talent there. You got guys like Greg Ellingson, who was 8 receptions, 144 yards. So this is a team that can kind of do anything to be able to beat you. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. They play good defense. The Hamilton Tiger Cats, I think, were done in by the hot and cold Jeremiah Masoli. If you look at these numbers, his stat line looks great, 28 for 41, 315 yards, a touchdown, and then you get to the big one, which is the 3 interceptions, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, any game, turnovers are going to kill you, but it's even more magnified in a playoff game. But at the same time, Ottawa really just played so well that I'm not sure it would have mattered even if he didn't throw any interceptions. I mean, it would have maybe score would have been a little bit closer, but Ottawa just looked like a dominant team, which is something that we've said so many times on paper. They should be a lot more dominant than they are.
Yeah, and I mean, all these teams, the top 5 or 6 teams were all like that. They were hit and miss all year long. Even Calgary at the end of the season didn't look good. We look to the other side. Eric Rogers scored his 3rd touchdown of the game late in the 4th quarter, leading the Stampeders to a 22-14 victory over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the Western Final Sunday night at McMahon Stadium. This, to me, is an impressive win because I think the Winnipeg Blue Bombers were playing as good as anybody, and they have been probably over the last 6 to 8 weeks. And the Calgary defense holds Matt Nichols 15 for 32. Andrew Harris had a decent game at 13 carries for 71 yards, but it wasn't something where it got away from him any time. Bo Levi Mitchell, 17 for 31, 3 touchdowns. Don Jackson runs the ball. So I think what you have here when you look at it is 2 complete teams in Calgary and Ottawa in this. And I was really impressed with Calgary's ability to all of a sudden turn it back on against Winnipeg. They were actually trailing at the end of the 1st quarter. And once again, the Stamps, when it matters, played well.
Yeah, they played well. And we all, I think, had some questions with them coming into the playoffs and how they played. But, they really did play well. They, in really all phases of the game, they played well defensively, offensively, very efficient. This is what we really have grown to expect from Calgary that we weren't seeing at the end of the year. But, even with that, it almost felt like Winnipeg, maybe the lights were a little bit too bright a little bit. I think there was some high expectations going into this game, and I mean, maybe it was a little too much because they really didn't play well at all, especially Matt Nichols.
Yeah, and they had a great season. It was especially Matt Nichols, but how much is that the spotlight's too bright for Nichols, or is it more that Calgary's defense is just really good?
Yeah, they're really good, but, we've seen Winnipeg, play well against Calgary. So I think, there's a little bit of both that'll get mixed in with that. I think that Winnipeg hasn't been in this position in many years, and it's not just playoffs. There were many people that expected them to win this game and be playing in a Grey Cup. So I think that there's a lot of pressure on them.
Well, let's get to the big thing, or the big story, which I think is Jonathan Rose, defensive back for the Red Blacks. He will likely play in the 106th Grey Cup, but this comes just a day after the CFL announced that Rose would be suspended for the Grey Cup following a chain of events in which Rose was handed a penalty and ejected from Sunday's East final against Hamilton after being involved in a post-play sideline altercation. Coach Campbell has stated that he and the Red Blacks would not discuss this anymore, and if he's eligible to play, he will play. To me, I watched this play, and it looked like Jonathan Rose shoved an official that got in the way as he was going to try to whip somebody's ass. And I know this may not be the popular opinion, but things happen like that in the heat of the moment. It wasn't like he jumped up and forcibly was there just to knock the official down. I don't think he should be suspended because I want to see the best players play in a situation like this. If he'd have got up and punched the official or just ran at the official and knocked the official down with no intent of going anywhere else, I could see it. But, I mean, it's an emotional game, is my opinion. I think he should be able to play anyways, Brian.
Well, I can agree with that, but I can also say where do you draw the line? Did he punch the official? No, but did he shove him? Yes. And heat of the moment, yes, but you have to draw a line somewhere.
Yeah, but you know what? When it came to player safety, they let somebody take out Zach Collaros, which probably cost the Riders a shot to be in the Grey Cup final. That was all right, though. I mean, nothing happened to that guy that was overly big. And this is just an official that got in the way. Let's face it, Brian. Me and you both coached a long time. Most officials are pretty much useless anyways.
True. That is true. But okay. I think this just comes down to, where do you draw the line? And also, with the officials union, threatening that they won't officiate the Grey Cup. He's allowed to play. It's going to be interesting how this plays out because you don't really ever hear much about, the officials union, and now all of a sudden they're going, well, hey, if he plays, we're not going to officiate. This could get interesting over the next couple of days. As far as I'm concerned, to me, I think you fine them heavily if you want, but
fine him his Grey Cup winnings. I mean, fine him whatever he would play in the game. I'm fine with that. But my thing is here, when I look at intent, I don't think his intent was to knock the official down. I think his intent was to get after the guy he wanted to get after.
Right. But, again, where do you draw the line? And that's what they're saying. My thing is, at this point, fight him heavily, but he should play. I don't feel like that warranted the suspension. I understand what they're trying to say, but this is the problem when you have all these unions involved is nobody's going to come out of this. Somebody's going to come out of this and not be happy. And that's the reality of it. Now, that's why when you have all these different unions involved, usually things like this are usually kind of comical because, you got officials union saying, well, he ain't officiating if he plays. Players union saying, well, he should play, which of course they're going to. And, now the CFL is in the middle that no matter what happens, they're going to have a little bit of egg on their face. So, here we are.
Yeah, it's just a mess. It's almost like it's an American sport now. Canadian football.
Yeah. It's gotten to that point.
Yeah, because that's what happens. It becomes a mess. All right, so when we look at this game, Red Blacks versus Stampeders, what is the first thing that stands out to you as being the biggest key to who's going to win this game?
Ottawa's offense versus Calgary's defense. Ottawa's really been on a roll. I think, Trevor Harris. Can Calgary slow them down enough? I don't think they're going to stop them. But can they slow them down enough, and then can Calgary, keep the game in that high 20s? I think Calgary has a great chance. I think if this thing starts getting into the mid-30s, the 40s, Ottawa's going to win that.
Yeah, and I think when I look at this game, I think the running game is going to be huge, especially for Calgary, because I think they need to control the clock, and I think they need to. It's huge for them to be able to control the tempo here against a team that can, put up points the way they have. And I know you're a big Trevor Harris fan, also. Bo Levi Mitchell's been here before, though. Trevor Harris hasn't. How big of a deal is that, do you think?
I think it's a big deal. How much? One thing about Trevor Harris is, we've seen him in his career. Obviously, not in a Grey Cup, but we've seen him in career. This guy is kind of fearless. I mean, this guy has come in. When he took over in Toronto, I mean, it was based on a Ricky Ray injury, and he came out and promptly, in the second half of his first game, when Ray got hurt, I mean, he puts up, 4 or 5 touchdowns and was uncrazy numbers. This guy has shown that in big situations he can play big. Now, here it comes. We hadn't seen him in the playoffs. Well, he played, very big in last week in the playoffs. Now it comes down to can he do it on the biggest stage, which is a Grey Cup, which, that to me, like I said, that the key really to me is Ottawa's offense, Calgary's defense. Can Calgary slow them down? Because I think Trevor Harris will have a good game. How good it will be will depend upon Calgary. But I think Trevor Harris is going to play well because he has shown he's a guy when the lights are bright. He's a guy that will make plays.
All right, so when you look at this game, who do you favor? Because from talking to you, it seems to me like you might favor Ottawa just because of Trevor Harris.
Yeah, if you would have asked me 3 or 4 weeks ago, I would have said Calgary. But right now, watching Ottawa play the way they played, where they're doing what we always feel like they should do. They're clicking on all cylinders. I think this game, Ottawa, from an offensive standpoint, I think can put up some points. Can Ottawa's defense do enough with Calgary? Well, the bottom line is this: if Ottawa's offense put up 35, 40 points, then Calgary's in trouble. If Calgary can keep this game in that middle to upper 20s, that's where Calgary's going to have an opportunity. I just think that Ottawa has got too much firepower offensively. And also the other reason is Calgary has been somewhat of a choke artist here in the last few Grey Cups.
Yeah. Do you think maybe the bad streak the last month of the season, maybe this may sound crazy, but did it take a little of that heat off them where they're not a huge favorite right now?
That very well could be. And sometimes the best thing you can be is either where you came in, you've struggled a little bit. Well, now you've picked it back up, and now everybody's looking at you going, you're not the dominant team. Or 2, you have a chip on your shoulder. And the one thing I will say with Calgary is after the performance of the last few Grey Cups, you would think they might have a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah, I think they would.
But you think they would, but I still feel like Ottawa's just a free-flowing team right now. They're playing like a team that doesn't have a worry in the world. They're loose. And I think sometimes those teams are the ones that win in these situations. We've always said this. You and I have said this probably from the time we ever met years ago. It doesn't matter how you get to the playoffs. Once you're there, everybody has a shot. And it's generally speaking, the team that wins is the one that's hottest. And generally the hottest team is the one that's just playing like they don't have a care in the world, or they're playing with a chip on their shoulder. I think Ottawa right now, that talent is really starting to show. They're playing crazy right now, and I think that's going to be enough for them against Calgary.
All right, so what kind of score do you envision in this game?
I think Ottawa's going to win this 42-37. I think it's going to be a high-scoring shootout kind of a game that Ottawa's going to do enough offensively to put up 42, and they're going to get a turnover or two from Calgary that will make the difference.
All right. I came into this kind of leaning towards Calgary just because I think they have less pressure on them. When you look at Week 3 and Week 5, they completely dismantled the Ottawa defense. But you're right. I mean, when I look at this, it's the team that's the hottest right now. You know, I think the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFL showed us they probably weren't as good as what they showed us last year, last half of that season. But they got hot at the right time. And there's a lot to be said for that. I'm going with Trevor Harris to have a huge game. I think Calgary wins this game 34-31. So we'll agree on this one.
Yeah, I the one thing I'll say is I think it's going to be a great game, and that's the one thing about the Grey Cup. Very rarely does it disappoint. Yeah, it has not disappointed, and I don't think this one's going to disappoint either. I think it's going to be an outstanding football game. I think you're going to see some fireworks offensively. I think it's just going to come down to which quarterback. Obviously, the old cliche line is who makes the least mistakes, which there's truth to that. But I think it's just going to come down to who gets hot and just makes plays.
How about this? I think this. I don't think it's up to who makes the most mistakes or the least mistakes. I think it's which team is least afraid to make the mistakes.
Yep, that's true. And Ottawa has played kind of like that. They're right now. They're playing. Look, they're taking chances. They're taking shots. They're playing like we've always said that they should be playing. I mean, Ottawa on paper should be up there when we talk about who's the top team in the CFL. Ottawa should be that team that's up there in the middle of the season, but they seem to play very off and on all year long, and then they do, they get to the playoffs, and then all of a sudden they're hot. They did that 2 years ago, and they're doing that again right now. They just get there and they get hot. So I think it's going to be a great game, but I think Ottawa will win this.
All right, Brian, very good. We are going to go ahead and wrap this up. Did you want to do a live show immediately after the Grey Cup, the way we have the last couple of years?
We should, yeah.
All right. I just had to make sure the Steelers didn't play at 8 o'clock Sunday night. But who's the halftime show in the Grey Cup this year?
Oh, man. I heard who it was. This was like 4 or 5 weeks ago. Now I completely forgot.
I did too.
I keep wanting to say Bruno Mars, but I don't think I'm right.
It's not Bruno Mars, I don't think. I don't know. Actually, it says Alessia Cara will headline the 2018 Grey Cup halftime show.
Well, I was way off then.
This gives you time to go look her up and see who she is.
Yeah,
be a Canadian Star.
Have to do that 'cause now, Which, hey, how about Dickinson's comment?
Oh, the effing Canadians. I wanted to stay away from that because I'm an effing American. I didn't want to make everybody bad. But I can tell you this. If you're coaching a football game, I mean, I've never done this before, and I know you never have, especially I've never done this before, but sometimes things come out of your mouth in the heat of the moment you don't really mean, and I wouldn't read too much into it.
Yeah, I would either, but I thought it was interesting, but there are some coaches though that they don't say anything, but they break headphones. But
yeah, that's you. Yeah, I used to have a tendency to just yell things. It was when I coached. I think it was more like I had Tourette's syndrome. I had Tourette's. You had anger issues. Together, yeah, we were exciting. Even
Yeah, we didn't win. I think we were more exciting than the game sometimes.
Oh, I think that most of the time it was. That's what I was shooting
for.
Sometimes you just got to entertain yourself, Brian.
Oh, we did that a couple times.
Yes, we did. But, all right, guys, so join us on thegruelingtruth.net immediately after the Grey Cup Sunday night. We will break down the game. Hopefully Robert will be able to join us there. I want to thank everybody for listening this week and all the other weeks. Remember, you can hear our shows on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Brian Schmidt, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.